you broke the Girls Gone Wild guy.
Oh, I broke him?
You broke him.
He assaulted me.
Yeah.
What? Yes.
It's a great story.
We'll come back to that. But none of that was a problem for him. The person who actually brought down Joe Francis is Steve Wynn.
I love Steve Wynn.
Yeah. Well, you should love him more.
Painful Lessons Podcast. I'm Tyler Ramsey. We own mistakes. I have a partner. His name is Ben. And I think he would want everyone to know that it was his idea to say we own mistakes. And I just think that's genius. It's our whole thing. Make mistakes and then own them. And of course, the mistakes or these terrible life lessons or difficult things we all go through are going to be hard and rough. And then maybe even tears and someone gets hurt, all that. But that's life. And if you can learn from them, great. Painful lessons. And I have an awesome guest I'm so excited about today, Claire Hoffman. Claire Hoffman, author and journalist.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, perfect. You picked up on that cue perfectly.
I was like, are you going to keep talking about me? I'm listening.
No, so I'm going to now tell like a little bit of a bio, which stuff that I'm dazzled by. So you have, I can't imagine a cooler, like one time I worked for MTV and I thought that was like the coolest thing to talk about.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It was so much cooler back then, but it's still cool.
Yeah.
You are currently a journalist and one of your gigs is Rolling Stone magazine. Couldn't be cooler.
It has its cool moments. It has its power over people, I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you have also written 2 books. One is called
Greetings from Utopia Park.
Greetings from Utopia Park, which is about surviving a cult.
It's about growing up in the Transcendental Meditation movement. Exactly.
Amazing. It's so much more scandalous and salacious to say surviving a cult.
I know. I mean, cut to me just like having to eat a lot of vegetarian food. Like heroic. And then like taking a plane to Los Angeles when I was finished, like escaping. And who was the leader of that cult? Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Who got in trouble?
He got in different kinds of trouble. And for most of the time when I was growing up, he did not come to the United States. We were based in Iowa, and he would telecast either from India or Europe. So we would just see him like on a flat screen.
Totally shady. What a shady thing to do. Okay. And you have a new book that is called Sister Sinner. And I have a real love of this topic. The topic is the woman, her name is Amy Semple McPherson, and she was alive in the 1920s, and she was one of the great leaders of this mega church thing that we're all familiar with now. She was one of the first people that embraced radio to get her message across, embraced technology. And in LA, she had the biggest show in town, which was her church, and a church called Los Angeles Temple.
Yep, or just the Angeles Temple.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Angeles Temple, which I go to.
Which you belong to.
Yeah, which I belong to. I'm very proud of it.
You were one of my early readers.
I took you to church one time.
Yes, you did.
It was kind of a bizarre service. This guy had I took her to church and like, it's going to be so cool. And it was the most bizarre service that I could possibly imagine. The guy had like an astronaut costume.
He was dressed, it was a guest pastor and he was dressed as an astronaut, but it
was a great message.
Well, and I don't really remember the message, typical, but I remember the costume. And I think it was that that was a big thing for her. Like she was very into entertainment, which has become kind of part of Pentecostalism, but she was very into costumes. So it made sense.
Yes. And she was a real showman.
Yes. Really.
And there's a quote, I think it was in New York Times, about your book.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a quote about your book, and it was, this is a book, this is a book either that you should have already read or you should be reading. Is that right?
The Los Angeles Times said there are two kinds of Angelinos, those who know Amy Semple McPherson and those who should. So it wasn't necessarily about my book, although I wish it were, but it's about her. And she was, she was the most famous woman in the world in the 1920s and just a huge influence on 20th century American religion and 20th century entertainment. And then she's kind of vanished, but she started the Foursquare Church, which is maybe what you belong to.
I think it is technically, I think I belonged. I mean, I go to a lot of different churches.
That's what I heard.
I'm very, very passionate and loyal to this.
He's a church slut.
Exactly. That's the rumor.
But my kids are Catholic.
Your kids are Catholic?
They're getting, they're having their first Holy Communion this coming weekend.
Who's guiding that
thing that you go through?
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Jackie, my wife,
is she Catholic?
Is Catholic, yeah, is Catholic.
But she also goes to Foursquare.
She also comes with me to church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would she describe herself as born again?
She would probably say that she's Catholic.
Huh.
If someone asked, she would be like, I'm not. I mean, I don't think she would go, no, I'm born again. I don't think she would say that. She would.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about the Pope. She goes, ask Claire about the Pope today.
Yeah, I'm excited about him. I think he seems cool.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
She wanted me to discuss with you this feud back and forth with J.D. Vance, which I have a real opinion about. But I can't get too far because at this point there are like people that are watching or listening and have to like keep their attention. And because this most exciting thing, I think one thing that I think is amazing about your background is that you broke the Girls Gone Wild guy.
Oh, I broke him?
You broke him. And which by the way, literally, Girls Gone Wild. So like, I feel like Girls Gone Wild was in some ways like the most viral thing ever.
Yeah.
It's like they have these videos with these drunken college girls,
high school
girls, and maybe younger. And they, in some ways, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but in like they've targeted the one time in their life that they would kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
And then they get them to like take their shirts off or act promiscuous. And then that's on video forever.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a shitty thing to make money off of.
Yeah, he's a pretty shitty guy. I mean,
Joe Francis.
Yeah, I would say, I think it would be fun for this interview if you like keep saying my accomplishments and then I argue with you about them. And here's where I'm going to argue.
Okay, sure.
So sadly, I did not break Joe Francis, and he continued to like go on and make more money and abuse more women and be arrested and charged with violence of women. But it was actually never any of those cases involving women, and he assaulted me.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
It's a great story.
We'll come back to that, but none of that was a problem for him. The person who actually brought down Joe Francis is Steve Wynn. Do you know this?
No, I didn't know this. I love Steve Wynn.
Yeah, well, you should love him more because he sued Joe Francis for slander, and because Joe Francis was walking around his casino, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know the date exactly, but walking around his casino saying that he owed Steve Wynn all this money, and Steve Wynn was going to kill him. And Steve Wynn took him to court and got a judgment of tens of millions of dollars against him. And that is when Joe Francis left the country so that he wouldn't have to pay that settlement. And he has been a sort of fugitive from justice, so to speak, in Mexico ever since. And so he does not come back to the United States.
No kidding. He's
Yep.
in Mexico still.
Yeah, he's still, he makes like all his money off of that big house that he rents out. You know what I'm talking about?
He makes money. He's like an Airbnb
Basically.
guy.
Yeah, it's like a fancy Airbnb. And then during the pandemic, I mean, I have kept track of him on and off over the years. During the pandemic, he also married a woman who was the winning contestant on his TV show, The Hottest Girl in the World.
Okay.
Lucky her. And they had 2 kids.
She's probably pretty hot.
2 girls. She seems like a great looking lady, and they were married for I don't know how many years, but she alleges that he was abusing her, and
Probably
she
did.
left the country, maybe even lives in Oklahoma, weirdly, and has a restraining order against him, and he can't see his kids. And there were like a number of issues during the pandemic where he had like kind of mental breakdowns and was.
I saw a video where he's like harassing his staff.
Yes, there's a lot of staff footage of him, like kind of, which you're like, who's on staff that's capturing all this? But anyway, it seems like not fun to work for him, but I'm sure I'm wrong.
It's great. Now anytime, if you're working for some maniac, every now and then you're like, okay, last day of working here.
Yeah.
Get out my phone.
Exactly.
Video.
Yeah.
He is, I'm really big on no shenanigans. There are things that I think are shenanigans in the world. Mm-hmm. He was a shenanigan.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, why are we allowing this predator to like be a predator and like hunt these vulnerable women and then profit off them? Like, how is that? How are we as a society all like, oh, this is okay? I also think I get equally angry about squatters that go in and like, how can we all just get together and kick them out? These squatters. I'm like, when I see people on like video and someone's like, you're squatting here, and someone's like going to lose their house because no one's paying them rent. I'm just like, how is this allowed? And then
you're mad at the people not paying rent?
I'm mad at the squatters.
But hold on. Joe Francis is in a whole other category.
I know. I am like, look she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah. Abby.
He is such a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I always thought if I had a daughter that was victimized in that, like it was taken advantage of in that way, I would be like, there's got to be a Batman that you can call. There's going to be someone that will just go and beat him to a pulp.
Steve Wynn.
Steve Wynn. I mean, so many people like, there was a whole thing in Panama City where he was in jail. Like lots of people tried to go after him for his business practices with women, and it didn't work. Like he had tax cases against him, and it was Steve Wynn.
Amazing Steve Wynn. What a way to go. Yeah. Built an empire. What a great businessman. He did. There were some things that were said against him, which it's my understanding that the takedown of Steve Wynn was orchestrated by his ex-wife,
who I met and loved.
Yeah, I heard she's terrible.
She recently passed away.
I know. I'm aware. Well, I wouldn't say that if she was.
I don't know. I don't doubt that she took him down. She seemed like they had an incredible kind of long love and business story. Like they were together forever. They started at like bingo parlors together.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a great start, but then it went then things went sour and
she seemed like a real class act to me, Tyler. I feel like you would have loved her.
Probably.
She said this thing
about if she would have bought some art, then I would be like, just change teams.
Yeah. No, I never got the impression that she had like a real bee in her bonnet about him. I know. I bet you have evidence. I don't know. She said this thing that I loved, which was like such a cool, like gambler lady thing to say, where she was like, decisions just lead to more decisions. That's all decisions are.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like wisdom.
I thought it was really wise.
Okay. Okay. Well, back to, I want to hear the context of this story. Yeah, we get it, Jerry. She's gorgeous.
Sorry, I just want to look at it a little more.
He did very well for himself. And if poor Joe Francis is in some amazing house in Mexico. And he's got a staff that apparently turns on him sometimes, but most of the time they probably do exactly what he says. And then he has this gorgeous wife. So I'm not sure it really went that far down for him, but
she left him.
She left him, sucker.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is when you did a story on him and followed him around, what happened? You'll love this, Jerry.
A bunch of things happened. I followed him around. It was for the business section of the LA Times, which is where I was working. And, I sort of had a certain impression of him, that he was kind of like a fratty, like take no prisoners, like I can do what I want, sort of acting with impunity, but like, fairly generic person. It wasn't like such a huge impression of him. And then towards the end of my reporting, I went with him and his crew on his private plane, the Air Force Fun.
No way.
Yep.
Great name.
To a club in Chicago where they were filming, and it was a 18 and over club, which usually I guess means actually everybody's 14, it turns out.
Oy.
Yeah. And he just got kind of crazier and crazier as the night went on. So 2 dramatic things happened that were not equal to each other. One is I interviewed a young woman who was turning 18 that night, who that's like a special thing for them, like to get a girl on the night of her 18th birthday.
Of course.
Like the moment they
caught a
turn
fish.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the whole crew gets a bonus. And he took her back to, they had like a party bus, and he took her to the party bus, and I had gone on there. I think I ended up going on there after she left, and it was like kind of the dark side of girls. I mean, there's lots of dark sides of Girls Gone Wild, but it was actually
Is there a light side?
not. I mean, that kind of stuff is actually the light side. I mean, the back had a big bed in it and a stack of clipboards with waivers in it, and a bunch of like shitty, fruity alcohol, and a bunch of like giant, unappealing sex toys.
Okay.
And you were like, oh, wait, like this isn't just about boobs. Like they're filming like basically porn back here.
Yeah.
And porn with, amateur, often maybe underage women. So that was a surprise to me. Like I knew about the boobs and the drunk girls, but I didn't quite realize, I guess at that point I'd probably seen some of the videos where it gets like racier when you actually got the DVD in the mail.
Yeah.
And so
I never got the DVD. I never ordered the DVD.
Yeah, I had to like play them on my work computer, which was embarrassing. Everyone thought it was so funny in the newsroom.
Bad.
Yeah, I had like a special computer that was like the porn computer.
Oy.
That's another story. But that girl, I interviewed her after that night, and she alleged that he raped her. So that was like pretty upsetting. That's in the article.
I didn't even remember that about the article. Why didn't you go, well, that's against the law, we should do something?
Why didn't I say that's against the law, we should do something? She reported it.
Put it in the okay, got it.
And I put it in the
It
thing,
just didn't work out.
Yeah. Like, this is what I mean. He just acted with impunity.
He got away with everything.
He kind of got away with everything. The other thing that
sign something, sucker.
Yeah. He walked off that bus allegedly after that encounter, and I was asking him questions, and he ended up throwing me against the hood of a cop car that was there in front of a cop, pinning my arms behind my back, pushing himself against me, and like screaming at me about the First Amendment. So he ended up like kind of bruising all my arms. Like, it was crazy. The cop did nothing, which is like
in front of a cop.
In front of the cop, who afterwards was like, oh, everyone said you guys were together. Which I'm like, oh, cool.
So you could still rough you up.
Yeah. It's just like, what were the early aughts like? That is the answer, that you could do that to. Like, I was like working, like I was like a journalist, and I'm like, oh, cool. So this guy, but I was young. Like I was.
Were you kind of mouthy?
What? I think so. It probably was. I was asking too many questions. It's definitely mouthy.
Dude,
she deserved it.
Yeah.
What if the cop was just like, oh yeah, I saw you talking to her earlier. Big mouth.
Yeah. Oh, that girl. There's just like so many questions. Yes. And then the name of the article is based on the fact that like I like sort of like shuffled off to like a dark corner where they sent like a security guard to watch over me until my cab came.
Oh my gosh.
And he came up to me and kissed me on the cheek and was like, sorry, we love our reporter. And then was like, baby, give me a kiss, which I was like, ugh. And that's the name of the article.
Baby, give me a kiss.
Yeah.
Baby, give me a kiss. We love our reporter.
I thought that was a
little reporter.
I thought that was a Britney song.
Maybe. Also?
No, that was not it.
No, kidding.
Baby, one more time. I know that because I've worked on several of Britney Spears videos.
You're like, I know every Britney
That was
song.
I was a director for making the video on MTV The show was called Making the Video. We
Ooh.
cover videos.
Yeah.
And I've worked on several Britney Spears videos. And she got me a promotion one time because she did not like the girl that was interviewing her, which I was dating at the time, who was the director. And she was like, I want that guy to be the director. And they were like, well, the show must go on.
Yeah.
You're the director.
Yeah.
And I got like a promotion.
Yeah.
And it would have been taking me forever to get from camera assistant to director, which I was dying to do.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
She's pretty fascinating.
She is great. But at the time I remember being like, she seems like I don't feel like I'm getting through to her at all. Like someone in the room telling her what to say. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And they were telling her what to say. Okay. So, and also she was hiding a relationship, which was so weird. They would like escort Justin Timberlake in and out and be like, everyone put down your cameras.
Yeah.
Like, no, we would need to see, put them down. Such a whole thing.
Have you read the book?
Yes, of course. I have read the book and I've seen I've just seen the documentary. I haven't read a book.
What book?
The book is great.
What's it called?
What is I think it's called like Being Britney Spears. I highly recommend the audio version, which has Michelle Williams reading it. So it sounds like a Tennessee Williams play, but
great.
It's amazing.
Okay. It's going to be an easy road trip audiobook. Definitely not something I'm just going to sit down and read. But I did read Sister Sinner, your book.
Pivot, yes.
Segue. I think it's one of the coolest books. I have recommended it to several people.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I've recommended it to several people. You know who she lives in Montecito. She's such a bookhead, Catherine Brolin. She was on the show, and I'm like, you have to read this. And I don't know if she's read it yet. And then there are several other people who I'm not just like, because I wouldn't just send this to anyone. I'm like I don't even know if Jerry reads books. Do you read books?
I read lots of books.
Oh, okay.
Jerry, I think I might have an extra copy in the car if you'd like one.
I would love it.
I'm
So
like
I
a
just
traveling
haven't sent it to Jerry.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that he read.
Yeah. I say if you like The Wolf of Wall Street, it also is a book for you because it's essentially also a story about ambition and
I do like The Wolf of Wall Street.
dark side of ambition. Like, I don't think Ben is particularly interested in religion, but he loves this book.
It is a killer book. Okay, wait. So that's not even doing justice. This crazy scandal happened to the most famous woman in the whole world at the time, and she randomly walks out into the ocean in Santa Monica in the height of her popularity and goes missing. We continue from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, did the scandal happen to her or did she happen to a scandal?
That's the real mystery.
It is the mystery. But yeah, in May 18th, 1926, she's at the height of her fame. She has a lot of enemies in Los Angeles. She's kind of taken on the underworld and the political elite and the gangsters, and along with like a lot of male preachers who are powerful at the time. So she's just she's very loud. She has this big radio station that can be heard all across the Western United States. And she's starting to kind of show signs of fraying, I would say. Like there's like just, her congregation is worried that she's tired.
Yeah.
And she starts going down to the beach in the afternoon to work on her sermons. And on May 18th, 1926, she went down and she was working on a sermon about light and darkness.
Okay.
And she sends her assistant into the hotel to make a phone call back to the Angelus Temple. And she walks down into the water and she disappears. And, chaos ensues. People die looking for her, tens of thousands.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is the craziest part.
Yeah.
Several people died looking for her.
Yes, it matters.
Why did they die?
One person who died was a diver. They were like scrubbing the ocean floor looking for her body. There was like an old amusement park that had fallen off the pier, like an old roller coaster.
Okay.
And they thought her body might be entangled in the roller coaster.
Hold on. The roller coaster fell off the pier?
Yeah, I think it was called she was right near Lick Pier, which is not there anymore. And this is Venice Beach. And there had been a big, like the Santa Monica Pier, there'd been a big amusement park out there, and there'd been a fire, and the whole roller coaster had fallen into the ocean. So I think that he was looking for her in that wreckage and ended up dying, like freezing to death or something. I imagine the diving equipment was not like top notch.
I was about to say, it must not have been a great diver.
Yeah. Oh my God. Deserved it. Speaking of the other person.
So excited looking for it. What time is it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Dead. And the other person who died was a woman who loved her and was a devotee of hers and ran into the ocean and drowned.
Just kept swimming.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was pretty rough seas. She was very brave for swimming in the ocean. She would go down there and swim laps.
It's not that crazy.
I would never swim by myself.
I guess and back then it wasn't like a woman just swimming in a bathing suit.
No.
She's like, I can't take off this big dress.
Well, she did have a swimsuit, which people were kind of scandalized by. Like, it was like, oh, she was swimming in a swimsuit. Like, of course she's dead.
Slut.
Exactly. She went where all such women go.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
And you go into the 20s and you go into LA and you go into, it's a killer read.
It's such a great moment in LA's history.
I can't wait to read this.
Yeah. I mean, you get a little bit of it. LA Confidential is supposed to be a little later, but a lot of what was happening with LA Confidential was happening even earlier. So it's almost the in-between, if you think about it in movies. It's in between Chinatown and LA Confidential, like this, because Chinatown is the teens and LA Confidential is supposed to be the 30s. So it's this like moment of where it's going from kind of totally like dirty, poor, small outpost in the West to this like the fastest growing city in the history of the world, and all the kind of corruption and darkness, and also all these people who were coming to LA at that time looking for self-transformation. And she was just this like very charismatic, intense figure in the middle of it. And all of which is to say, the scandal is that 35 days later, 600 miles away, she walks in from the desert of Mexico, and she's wearing a white dress and a corset, and she's relatively clean, and it's the middle of the night, and she asks for a telephone and tells a kind of unbelievable story of being kidnapped.
Wow.
And the book kind of
sounds outlandish.
Oh, so she didn't die.
She did not die. She reappeared.
She came back
she was resurrected. Resurrected.
I love resurrections.
And everyone's like, your story is bogus. But her church got bigger.
Yep.
Way bigger. And
yeah, she became more famous. But a lot of the book centers on these two court inquiries, kind of trials that happened surrounding the kidnapping, where they were initially meant to be investigating her kidnappers, but very quickly they investigate her and her story and her lifestyle and her business practices and her sex life. And she becomes kind of a public joke.
Yeah.
While also growing her church enormously, becoming richer and more famous than she ever imagined. So it's this like strange brew.
It's like you can't really do one without the other, though. You can't. It seems so impossible to get so famous and beloved without also being a joke to so many.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think you probably can do it. I don't think you have to.
It's just difficult.
Yeah, I think there's more organic ways of doing it. I would say, just to skip ahead, I think that if she had not had this kidnapping episode in 1926, she would be somebody that more Americans knew about, that people would mention in the same breath as Billy Sunday and Billy Graham. Like, she was the direct link between them.
Wow.
And nobody knows about her because this scandal made her sort of a punchline, and then she disappeared from history.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking that because there were other mega preachers during the time of like Billy Graham, let's say, that nobody knows about, or no people don't really talk about.
Yeah. But I mean, she
Within
like,
churches, I guess they still get mentioned a lot, but
so do they talk about her in Foursquare?
they don't talk about her that much in Foursquare. But that is because I think that so the Dream Center is, I don't want to say anything out of turn. So I'm so passionate about going to Angela's Temple, and they are also they're from a church, like it was taken over by a church in Phoenix. And that church is what's it called, Pentecostal.
Yeah, I would disagree. It's like people don't, if they're talking about politics, they don't forget to talk about George Washington. And I would argue she is like a George Washington of
If you're
20.
like Alexander Hamilton's kids,
Yes.
it's like, I don't know, we don't talk about George that much. Our father, even though he wasn't a president, he did really well.
Yeah, I just think she is a like founding parent of American 20th century evangelical culture, and she has been erased.
Okay, so now we're gonna just, and this is the only, we rarely make cuts, but also I'm like, I can't believe I didn't just study the lineage of this because I kind of knew it was gonna come up. Okay, so then we're gonna start here, and the cool thing is that girls rule, boys drool, and she was very.
I've never heard
good.
that before.
She was a very good preacher, and she lit the world on fire. But you're right; it's not a household name today, which is insane. It's crazy that she's not a household name.
Yeah, she was incredibly charismatic, incredibly famous. She did all these incredible works in Los Angeles. She helped feed over 1.5 million people during the Great Depression.
Yeah, she did.
She was just really pivotal. And, she
Probably Chaplin said it was the best show in town.
best show in town. People called her the P.T. Barnum of Christianity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she was just as big can be.
Was it Cecil DeMille who built her church, or that built all the stuff for her show?
I don't think so. Her church was built by the people who built the Grauman's Theater.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
We're gonna have sirens. So
I don't mind the sirens.
okay.
I basically, the people who did all the movie palaces, probably this one over here, they built her church. So it has that feel to it.
Well, where was it located? The church.
It still is located on
It's kind of like
Echo
downtown.
Park. It's
Yeah,
on Echo Park Lake right there.
It's really pretty.
Yep.
It's great. I was just there for Mother's Day. It's a great show. They put on a great
show.
Yeah, and for Mother's Day, Matthew Barnett had his wife speak, and it was just spectacular. It's really awesome. So
That must have been so refreshing for you to hear a woman preach.
Who let this woman preach? Who let this woman preach?
Oh, once a year, a special time.
I think I need a rim shot of
I love. There's a lot of female pastors that I love right now.
Do you love Paula White?
I don't really. I'm not into that. I would say it's fine. I'm not like really drawn to it. What I do like, there are these two girls, and they're called Girls Gone Bible.
Yes, I
Do you know?
saw this. Yeah,
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, two best friends.
Do they wear bathing suits?
Over each other. Oh, you're the best, and you're the best friend. No, you're the best friend.
You should have them on.
I would love to have them on. I
Yeah.
messaged them, and I didn't hear anything back.
I think they're like in the middle of getting a lot of publicity right now.
They're getting a shit ton of publicity.
Yeah, just
Oh my God.
bide your time.
They are killing it.
Yeah.
And then also there's I forget her name, but she's like the granddaughter of the Duck Dynasty dude.
Oh, interesting.
She has a ministry, and
Okay.
she's pretty great.
That's your jam.
Yeah. I'm very impressed with hers. Those are the two female pastors that I like. But I send you these crazy people that have like these there's this one girl named the Spiritual Rookie.
Yeah.
So this is not a Christian pastor. This is just almost like a life coach.
Yeah, like a new age thing.
New agey.
Yeah.
And she I think was living in her car. She's very attractive. And are you saying like you don't know if she's attractive?
I'm like, I wouldn't, that wasn't my first thought in looking at her, but that's just, we can agree to disagree. It doesn't matter.
And
She's
and
infused with
but I
some
keep saying this,
power.
I go, I'm obsessed with this person.
Yeah.
She's so crazy.
Yeah.
And she has something called eye gazing, which she'll just sit and look at the camera and be like, all right,
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
You need to like get up on this eye gaze.
Yeah.
And she does it sounds like she does a lot of drugs. So I'm very fascinated with her. And then there's someone else that does something called light language.
Ooh.
And she's like, it looks a little like speaking in tongue.
Yeah.
She'll be like, want to win. And she also,
But it's not Christian?
It's not Christian.
Cool.
And she also, and she also promotes like healing through orgasms.
Oh, yeah, sure.
This is my kind of church.
Yeah.
It's your kind of church.
Yeah.
She's like, orgasms are the most wasted opportunity for spiritual growth.
Because everything's an opportunity.
I guess so.
It can't just be an orgasm. It has
I don't
to be.
know how it works. It's not like a video of sex or anything, but I'm very fascinated with this person.
I think we both like a couple of things. We like new religious movements because
Yes.
who doesn't?
Yes.
But I think we both like that funny moment where you see somebody kind of lifting off of like kind of losing their bearings, lifting off the ground.
Yes.
And getting their head turned a little. So you see it with famous people, but you see it with religious people. I mean, I used to go to this meditation retreat every year, which was kind of a big leap for me because I grew up in this meditation community and kind of hated everything about it and left. But then I started going to these silent retreats. And I remember and I liked the guy, he seemed really down to earth. And then one day he was walking in to give a lecture and this woman behind him fell to the ground and started kissing where he walked. And I was like, oh, I gotta leave, like all done, like that's it. Like, it's like the jumping of the shark for want of another term, like that moment. And you see it like with that lady, the spiritual rookie, where she was kind of being funny and sort of playing around with things. And then at some point she just started to take herself
like, I'm
super
real high on
seriously.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. High on her own supply.
Yeah, I am a god.
Yeah.
I think I think I may have seen you a clip. She's like, I'm a god. I've been sent here.
Yeah.
Maybe she said she was an angel, but I've been sent here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's when I'm like, this is getting so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe this is a free show.
Yes. I mean, I think it's tricky because like with Amy, what I thought was really cool is that this was like a time when women weren't allowed to be very much, like they weren't allowed to do very much. There weren't a lot of like careers or opportunities to be a big person in the world.
Right.
But being an evangelist actually was. I mean, there weren't a lot of female evangelists, but she sort of seized that opportunity and grew into it. And as she gets more and more famous, I write about this, like she stops saying I, she starts saying we, and you get this sense that like she, there's a lot of like, oh, she's just following a message. Like she's not in control, like he's in control. And I think on one hand, that allowed her as a woman to kind of break a lot of boundaries and do incredible work and achieve just incredible notoriety and fame and growth and purpose. And on the other hand, maybe was part of what made her lose her way is that like voice in her head. Like that idea that you're chosen, I think can be amazing. And I come from this like not as a Christian, so I don't know if I'm like messing around in your waters here. But for me as a non-Christian, I think it's really interesting that like on one hand, being chosen can be really powerful, like gas in the tank, like really get you going. But it can also lead to shenanigans, to use your word.
Shenanigans. So you're not a Christian right now. For some reason, I thought that I had converted you.
Oh my gosh. But do you remember when you, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but when you tried to convert my dad right before he died, like in the minutes before he died. Should we talk about that on your show?
Yes, please.
That was incredibly intense.
I have like talked to people about this. So first of all, to clarify, I don't know why you thought you converted me just through your magic.
I'm being silly.
Okay. But I grew up like actually my mom.
I thought you would be like, I was like, I've been around you for, years. I was assuming you would just be like, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah. Done. My work here is done. Pa-pa. I grew up, my dad was probably an atheist. And my mom grew up Catholic and then joined the Transcendental Meditation movement. So much of like my childhood was more like quasi Hindu, like little Ganesh on the steering wheel. Lots of like we read the Upanishads. Like I had friends named Arjuna. Like it was just a very different. It was not a Christian scene. And then just to fast, and so I don't subscribe to any belief system at this point that I know of. But when my dad had dementia and was sick, you used to go visit him.
I did.
And it was amazing. And my dad was an artist as well and a painter and had his own recovery journey. And you would go visit him pretty regularly, which was beautiful. Because
I lived close and you were like, hey, we go visit my dad.
I asked you to, but then you like really did it.
I'm a pretty good friend.
You are a really good friend. It's a good thing to know about you and take advantage of. Yeah. But so you would go visit him, and then when he was sick in the hospital and dying, you were like, hey, like, should we just like really quick like do this thing? And I was like, sure. Like that was my recollection of it. What's your recollection of it?
No, that's exactly my recollection. But I also remember, like, I have had an opportunity to talk to someone that, to people that have been sick, and like, well, have you thought about just saying, God, if you're there, like, I'd like a relationship. I know it's kind of late in the game.
Yeah.
But this was a much more extreme situation because, your father was dying.
He was. I mean, he died that day. Yeah.
I can't believe he died that day.
Yeah. And he was on a ventilator at that point, so I don't think he could talk very well.
Yes. And there were moments then when he was dying that are so with me still.
Same.
And because he was like scared.
He was really scared of dying. He always said that, which kind of confused me. For an allegedly, well, maybe it makes sense to you, but for somebody without like a strong belief system.
Well, yeah, for an atheist to go, wow, there's nothing after this.
Yeah, I guess.
Terrifying.
I don't know. He seemed so scared though that I was like, do you actually believe in hell?
And he had a ventilator.
Yeah, he had the ventilator on.
Part of my memory also is if he had it's as if he had something on his eyes that made him like more intense.
I think the ventilator maybe it went over his whole face, but he was squirming in pain. Like it was very intense. He was super sick.
So I remember, I can't remember the words I was saying, but I remember speaking to him, and all of a sudden, and I'm like, so listen, you're loved, and we're there, and then all of a sudden his eyes, like, he got so huge with his face.
Yeah.
And it scared me.
Yeah.
It scared the crap out of me. And in that moment, I was like, I don't even know what to say to someone that's scared.
Yeah, I know.
But I remember, I think I just held his hand and said, well, we all held hands and said, you're loved.
Yeah.
That was one of the most intense moments of my life.
I think when you were doing that, I was like, how can we triple the amount of morphine this guy is getting? Like, that was my take.
Yes.
Just too different.
But I mean, because we talked about it. You didn't think that was like too much or anything?
It didn't. No, I mean, I think where I'm at in terms of religion and spirituality, it's like, I think the truth is an individual experience. And so I felt like he was having his experience. I don't think he would have, I think you guys had your own relationship. Like if you were somebody coming from the outside, but you guys had your own relationship and friendship. And so I felt like that was between you guys is how I felt. And I felt like it was important to you and thus important to me, if that's okay to say.
Well,
I'm not saying I let you talk my dad into accepting Jesus Christ as his personal savior to be polite, but
do you think he did though? I feel because I felt really connected.
yeah.
So if there's anything to it, I think it worked. But it wasn't like what did not happen was he didn't go, all right, great. And now I can just relax. Like,
I mean, he
it seemed
did
he
like
got way more
6 hours later. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I didn't realize he was going to go. I have a regret. I don't realize he was going to go so fast.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like something I had to finish.
Uh-huh.
And then I called him like, hey, I'm coming back. You're like, it happened. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't understand the speed of hospice at that time.
well, I mean, I was like signing him up to live in hospice for the following months that afternoon. So I don't think anyone quite knew. And the other crazy thing that happened there was that my dad, of course, like I had flown from Costa Rica to be with him. I had to fly through El Salvador to get there. Like it was kind of crazy. I think
When he has one leg.
Yeah, his one leg, he'd been amputated. He'd had frontal temporal lobe dementia forever. And I get there and I'm like, I'm here. And he's like, where's your brother? Which I'm like, this is the fucking story of my life. And then he like proceeds to have me the entire afternoon call my brother over and over, who does not pick up.
Yeah.
Does not pick up the phone. And then like at like midnight that night, I'm like, Dad died. And then he like calls me. And I'm like, you two go off and dance your karmic wheel forever because I am done. Anyway, sorry.
No, I like this conversation.
What do you like about it?
Well, I have friends right now that are about to go through just that. Like, and I take some things from that experience. I mean, I've had two father figure, my father, my stepfather, both passed away, and I was with them, or at least towards the end, or something like that. And sometimes I think I try to tell people like, you have to like, there's so many things that are really uncomfortable to say.
Yeah.
And conversations that are really uncomfortable. And if you have those, you're going to have those for the rest of your life. And if you don't have them, that's going to be a hole.
Yeah. No, I definitely am like, choose the confrontation, choose the pain, like be there, do it, like have the fight. I definitely come from a family where people just like, I mean, my father's father.
Craziest story I've ever heard.
Really? I've told you this, right? Or maybe it's in my book. Yeah. My father's father, who was a jazz musician who, was part of my life later on, walking down the street in Santa Cruz in the late 70s, I think shortly after I was born, walked up to my father and like just walked away, and they never spoke again.
They just passed each other.
They just passed each other.
They didn't see each other forever.
Yeah.
And they just passed each other. And I was like, there was like when you see anyone, you're like, do I know, is that, it's almost like people, you're like, do I know that person from a movie?
Yeah.
Or do I've,
and, I mean, my dad never knew what he did wrong. Like
they never had like a beef.
Never talked about it. I mean, I later on, I grew up in this community in Iowa, but I went to Santa Cruz for college and reconnected with my grandfather, and we just never talked about it. I mean, he's such a weird guy. Like at one point, it was my birthday, and I just want to make
sure we have the context for this.
Yeah.
Your father and his father stopped talking.
Yeah.
And then years later, in Santa Cruz, they pass by each other, and the grandfather just like looks at him and looks away as if they were just strangers.
That's how they stopped talking, though. Like, according to my dad, like he never knows what he did. I mean, I think what he did was then fill in that story, right? Because they never had a confrontation. Yeah. So my dad felt like, he'd had a lot of promise as like a young man and had gone to University of Iowa to the writing workshop, and like, was just this promising young man. And then he met my mom and they got pregnant, and he sort of is like suddenly painting houses or something. And I think he felt like my grandfather was really disappointed in him.
Right.
that he had become like a regular person instead of the artist that he was meant to be. But by the way, yes, this is what I thought you were going to say. Fast forward 40 years and you've got my dad on the day he's dying being like, call your brother. Where's your brother? You know? Yeah, good stuff.
Sins of the father shall be.
Exactly. It is dark.
I don't want my son to have any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, just don't project if I can offer any
I
advice.
project so much.
I know. It's so hard.
In my head, this is going to blow up and he's going to be in this with me. And
Yeah.
it's going to be amazing.
Well, I think you see yourself in your kids, and sometimes that falls into gender roles, and it can be like really toxic.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
But he came into the studio. He came with me over here the other day.
River.
And
Okay.
we had like the greatest day painting in here, and I even brought like the PlayStation, so we would take breaks and play Fortnite.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Dad, this is like living.
Yeah.
I love this place."
Yeah.
And it made me so happy.
What I like about River is, first of all, his looks. I think he's just an incredible looking child.
He's a good looking kid.
Number two, a certain pride of like the way that he looks. Like he really carries himself like he's got a sense of himself in the world that I think is really
Interesting.
cool. He's obviously like a very smart sweetheart also, but
Yeah.
I just like those superficial things.
Got it. Great. That's a start. That's a great start.
Yeah.
And I also know you because you are sleeping with my partner.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's the language we're going to use.
Well, it just seems, I feel it's so much edgier than saying you're married to
Like,
him.
who am I sleeping with?
Then you've started a family with him.
Yes, I have.
But I'm such a fan. And I think that we've had so many fun talks through the years. And both of your books are amazing. I've had a great time reading both of them.
Sorry, what's the other one?
It's Greetings from Utopia Park is the first one. It's like a reported memoir about that community that I grew up in. So it's journalistic, but also about this religious community and my family. And then the second one is Sister Sinner. But I think like one thing I thought I would just talk to you about that I think is interesting.
That's such a great book that you just pulled up.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a great cover.
Thank you. The same guy designed them both.
He did?
Yep.
The Sister Sinner, it's like, so one book is about a cult that you grew up in, and then the other is about
the cult that you're growing up in.
Oh, damn it. I need the rim shot effect in it. Twice.
But here's what I was going to say. I feel like I have this sense from like all the sort of religious environments that I've grown up in, and, you know, watching my mother be a part of that, watching my father be a part of it, not be a part of it, be a part of AA, that I have a little bit of I think it's like almost a bone to pick with you. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is that my concern is that people start to see the world in this really binary way, and it makes them fuck up more. That's kind of my thesis. So like Sister Sinner is a little bit of a play on that idea of like either you're good or you're bad. And she said that like either, you know, I made this whole thing up and I'm evil, or I'm a good person.
Okay.
And even just to like totally pivot, you know, in the TM movement, there's like all these ways that you're supposed to act to show that you're enlightened, and all this work you're supposed to do, all these processes. And then in the recovery movement that my dad was a part of, that he ultimately left and started drinking again after like 20 years.
Yeah.
And also my great-grandfather also was a recovering alcoholic, didn't drink for 15 years. Then on his 89th birthday, went out and bought a handle of vodka, drank it, and shot himself in the head.
Wow.
All of which is to say, I see overlap in these spaces, and I'm just curious about it. Because for me, I think the problem is that people create these boundaries and then like hit up against them. And so I like to not believe in anything. That's how I like to keep myself safe. I like to not have anything that I say I don't do or I do. Like I'm kind of opposed to it because I think it can create bad behavior. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, part of me, I have forgot that your grandfather had stopped drinking forever and then 20 years of no drinking. And then one day bought a handle, drank it, and then blew his head off.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. My uncle, who was a bank robber, found him. Yeah.
Your uncle who was a bank robber.
Yeah. My dad's dad.
Wow,
My
you
dad's
have a
brother.
fantastic
Yeah.
family
I
history.
have lots of painful lessons in my family.
You do?
But the way that I have like,
Get out of here.
I have taken the lesson is like, oh, like don't believe in anything.
Wait, here, I gotta make sure this is.
We'll cut this. Wow, I have so many more questions. Have you optioned any of this work?
Sister Sinner has been optioned.
By
Yeah. LuckyChap. Do you know what that is? It's Margot Robbie's company.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the TM book was briefly optioned, and then I mean it came out like almost 10 years ago. It's kind of too crazy, in my opinion.
I don't know. That's the kind of films I make, so we should talk.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of like strands to it. I mean, the other issue is like so many people in the film industry meditate. So they're like they don't want to read a story about it being negative.
I don't know that they practice TM though.
Well, a lot of them do.
They do?
Because that was like what David Lynch was super into.
Yeah, true. But I mean, I would say like Army doesn't do TM and he meditates every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Do you know what kind of meditation he does?
I don't, but I don't think it's TM.
You don't think it's TM?
Because I studied it briefly.
You studied what?
TM for a while.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the wherewithal to really dedicate myself.
Hey, no problem. That's the other interview we have.
Oh, great.
Actually. So
We're wrapping up, but you are going to take my tough question.
we are wrapping up. We were naturally wrapping up. And the tough question that I have to be honest, I got distracted because it was such an intense story about your grandfather.
Yeah.
But tell me if I have this correct. Your tough question is that you are resistant to creating all these boundaries through what, like religion?
Religion or belief systems. Like I think that while, for example, AA helped my father and grandfather, I think it created this schism in their lives of like, I am this person when I drink and I'm this person when I don't drink. And I choose this other person. I can never be that dark side. Like I cleave off the dark side.
Okay.
And I see danger in that.
Yeah, I think I don't know that that's my deal. I feel.
Do you feel like you embrace your dark side?
Yeah.
I do. He talks about it a lot. He's
Yeah.
pretty vocal about the bad things he's done.
Yeah. I think we're all both. I mean, just like, I think that let's see, with faith, I mean, I feel like as much faith as I have, there also is plenty of times where I question things and like, no, it's arc. How does that make sense? I mean, but at the same time, I've had this like amazing experience with God. I'm like, no, it's for sure.
Yeah.
And the same with like, let's say the program or sobriety.
Yeah.
I am so completely content and excited about the fact that my life is way better without having to dilute it through alcohol or drugs or anything like that. But at the same time, every day I'm also aware that the first 3 beers are delightful. And even though they always lead to trouble, like why should they this time?
Yeah.
And I was watching someone nod off. Like, have you ever seen someone where they're standing up straight and they're nodding off? And I'm like, how do they? So I can see them and have one thought in my head, which is, how on earth are they wasting their life? And then I'll have another thought in my head, which I'm like, but maybe they just have the perfect amount of heroin and they're in heaven with no other complicated thoughts in their head. There's like, oh my gosh, these drugs are going through me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I do find you unusual in that you don't seem scared about the dark side right? Like I don't sense like a rigidity, and maybe that's what my issue is like I grew up around a lot of rigidity, you know, like where it was like there can't be any alcohol anywhere near my dad, you know, because he'll like become a monster or something, you know, or with like, you know, and
no, I don't have a rigidity about it.
Yeah,
and I also am also really attracted to like dark stories. And stuff.
Yeah, that's your way of keeping it
Keep
flowing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife is more of the other side. She doesn't like any. She's like, why do you even cloud your head with these thoughts? I'm like, because it's just feels so good.
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do because
moderation.
Yeah, I think moderation. I'm a big moderation person.
You're the best. Buy your book.
Thanks,
Sister Sinner.
Thank you.
Out now. Fantastic.
Thanks, Tyler.
This is great.